Hello again, everyone. Father Hamilton here in the church preparing for Holy Thursday. Because we're now opening more of the pews for seating, we'll need to follow a different pattern for the distribution of Holy Communion. So now when it's time for Holy Communion, and if you desire to receive Holy Communion and are prepared in the state of grace to receive, like before, you will get up from your pew, and in a somewhat like a procession, a communion procession, you'll come forward, moving down more forward in the seating section that you were seated in. And you'll find that in the front row of each of the four seating sections, there is still a pew that is closed. These are the two center sections, but likewise, on our transept, our side sections to the south and to the north, again, the front pew on each side is still closed. And that's because we're going to be using the front pew of each of our four seating sections as a communion rail, if you will. And I'm going to show you how you're going to enter and what you'll do to receive Holy Communion and then to exit. So for those who are sitting in the center sections, you're going to come down the center aisle like normal in two Holy Communion lines. And when you arrive at the front, you'll go into the front pew on the left if you're on the left-hand side, or the front pew on the right if you're on the right-hand side. And you'll just file in. It's really important that whoever is the first one to come to the pew goes ahead and walks all the way down to the end of the pew so that others can enter behind you and fill in the space behind you using the entirety of the pew as a communion rail. If you're able to kneel, then you are able to do so conveniently on the kneeler, and the cleric will come by to receive Holy Communion. Once you have received Holy Communion, you can get up to leave, and you're going to need to exit, continuing out the pew from the opposite end of the end you entered in. So if you came in one end of the pew, you need to exit. I'm tripping myself up here. You need to exit the opposite end so that everyone can leave and then return to their pews, going back down the center section for the pews. So please be aware of that. Again, you're going to fill in the entirety of the front pew. You can kneel. If you're not able to kneel, certainly remain standing. Holy Communion given to you, and once you've received, you can get up to exit. And then once the pew empties out, the next group of people still in line standing in the aisle can then enter the pew, filling it in again, and we continue like so until Holy Communion is finished. I'm going to come over here to a transept side and explain the process here on the transept side. So if you're sitting on one of our transept sections, which is the side seating of the church, off on that end too, you're going to come out of your pew as you were before for Holy Communion, like more than a year ago when we were still moving for Holy Communion. You're going to come out again from the end of the pew that puts you walking down the westernmost wall of the church. So on this transept, it's putting you walking past the choir area, or on the other side of the church, it's putting you walking past the St. Michael statue. So on that wall, which is the western wall of the church, you'll come forward, and those who are going to be receiving Holy Communion will then enter the front pew. And again, it's always important to fill in the entirety of the pew so that those coming behind you have the chance to fill in the space. Likewise, once in the pew, you can kneel down to receive Holy Communion, and when the cleric comes by, you can then exit. Depending on what end of the pew the cleric starts at, that might mean you are the first one to get up and the whole line follows behind you. It might mean, depending on the end he starts at, the entire pew receives Holy Communion and exits only once everyone's received. But whatever the case is, you're always exiting the pew opposite from the end you entered, and that will keep the traffic flow moving. So on the transept section, we're coming out and turning and going back up the sidewall past the cry room to return to the seat. And likewise, on the opposite side, if you're on that transept, you exit, come out past the cry room, and exit back to your pew. I'll explain this again at Mass beginning Holy Thursday. We'll be using this method for distributing Holy Communion because now that more pews are open, we can't be weaving in and out of closed pews. So everyone who desires to receive Holy Communion and is prepared and in the state of grace will need to get up from their spot and move forward in their own seating sections using the front pew only as the communion rail for Holy Communion. If someone is truly not ambulatory and not able to walk or get around, we will try to be attentive to that as best we can and go to the back of church. But if those of you who are not able to move and come forward for some compelling reason, you'll need to sit only in the back areas of the two center sections. In other words, we're not going to be looking for people who are sitting on the transept sides in the very back who can't move forward. If you have a valid reason for not being able to come forward like before in the past, you need to sit in the back of the center sections. We'll be looking for people who can be assisted in that way to bring Holy Communion to the back part of the church only. Please be aware of that. We're going to kind of try this tomorrow at Holy Thursday. I think it will go well, but we'll kind of work this out as we go, and wanted you to have some heads up regarding it. God bless you all.